I hope everyone enjoyed the shrimp. Clarissa Hayes grinned into the microphone, lifting a glass of cheap champagne under the floodlights of the folding chair kingdom. The HOA board had spared no drama for this night, perched on rented risers and armed with plastic accolades. Just as she started reading the motion to seize the neighboring land, my land, the lights flickered once, then again. Then every speaker popped like firecrackers. The music cut out. The projector blinked and died. Even the champagne fountain wheezed, sputtered, and fell still. The entire HOA gala fell into blackout chaos. Some screamed, others groaned. A guy in khakis tripped over the riser and face-planted into a tray of deviled eggs. I stood behind my fence, holding a remote in one hand and a thermos in the other, and whispered, "Let's begin." But to understand how we got here, we have to go back to the first white line.it started on a Thursday. A normal, vaguely irritating Thursday. I returned from an engineering summit in Denver to find my open grassy field marred with bright white paint. Dozens of crude parking lines stretched corner to corner, laid out like a budget racetrack. Some had signs hammered into the dirt. HOA overflow parking. One even read, board member reserved. Orange cones, laminated arrows, a balloon sagging in the sun that I blinked at it like it might vanish if I stared long enough that it didn't take long for the real cause to appear. Clarissa, president of the HOA, clipboard queen, and part-time suburban tyrant, waddled into view, strutting from the cul-de-sac in a rhinestone-studded tracksuit, her sunglasses too large for her face, clipboard raised like a scepter. "Oh, hi," she chirped, fake sweet. "We didn't think you'd be back until next week. The board voted to use the field temporarily. You weren't using it. So we figured, why not benefit the community?" Benefit. That was her word. Like that erased the fact that this land had been in my family since 1972, while her subdivision didn't exist until 2003. Worse, my field was just outside HOA boundaries, technically still zoned rural, with livestock rights, unincorporated usage, and absolutely no requirement to follow her suburban codebook that I asked who authorized the paint. "My nephew," she said, beaming. "He does contracting. No permits. No paperwork. Just nephew." I nodded, thanked her calmly, then walked straight into my garage and pulled out my folder. The folder. Every homeowner near an HOA should have one. It held my deed, zoning documents, tax history, and original Cold War utility maps, because long ago, this land was part of a military communication grid. Deep beneath the field, a live but decommissioned auxiliary electric grid.my grid. My switch, and they had no idea. For the next few days, I documented everything. Every car parked on my property, every makeshift stage, every speaker, every balloon arch. They were preparing for something big, a re-election gala, or perhaps just a celebration of their own arrogance. One afternoon, I watched Clarissa direct a delivery truck straight into my fence to unload risers. The driver hesitated. She just waved her clipboard like a badge. The fence cracked. They kept going. They even staked a portable toilet next to my apple tree, but I stayed silent because I had a plan. A surgical plan. One that hit where it hurt most. Power. I spent that Saturday night at the old utility box at the edge of my field, under the hill where they'd set up their DJ tent. The grid was inactive by public standards, but I'd maintained portions for irrigation, my workshop, and a weather station I ran with a local science club. Using my control panel, I mapped out a clean reroute. No damage, no danger, just a full blackout. Their whole gala was powered by cables snaking from the HOA's community transformer, wiring that crossed my land. Once I triggered the cutoff, their big night would go dark. Sunday arrived. The field sparkled with folding chairs and fairy lights. Clarissa wore a sash that read, "Madam President." I strolled past, waved. She waved back, smug as ever. That evening, as speeches rang out over the loudspeakers and the sky turned golden, I watched from my porch. I flipped the switch cover up on the control box and waited. Clarissa stepped up to the mic. "Let this meeting of the board commence." Click. Blackout. The lights blinked out. The music stopped. The speakers hissed, then went dead. The popcorn machine sparked. The champagne fountain gagged one last time before falling still. People gasped, stumbled, murmured. A few cell phone flashlights flickered on like fireflies. Clarissa shrieked at the DJ, then stormed to the generator, yelling at a technician. He opened the panel, flashed a light inside, and shrugged. "Lines are fine," he said. "But there's no power feed. It's like the grid's been shut off." I sipped my tea behind the fence, and then it unraveled. Clarissa's voice rose to a panicked pitch. "Stay calm. This is a temporary issue." But the whispers started. "Isn't this his land? I thought this wasn't part of the HOA." Doubts spread like smoke. The next morning, the board was in shambles. I watched them from my porch, Stuart, the treasurer, and Melanie, the secretary, arguing beneath a tree. Clarissa paced in her driveway like a general in retreat, yelling into her phone. Time to act. That I printed aerial photos showing my field pre-markings, overlaid with timestamps. I included my deed, utility maps, fence damage photos, and a zoning map with a bold red line where their authority ended. Page 7. A screenshot of Clarissa taping a HOA event parking sign to my fence that I dropped the binder in the HOA mailbox with a sticky note. "You'll want this." Especially page 7. That afternoon, Stuart knocked. "I didn't know," he said immediately. "She told us it was community land." "Didn't check the map? The deed? The no trespassing sign next to the tree you drilled into." He sighed. "Karen said using the field would make us look competent." "Optics. But you're not managing optics," I said. "You're breaking the law." He nodded. "Some of us were thinking about removing her." "Good. Then do it fast," I said. I filed complaints. "Zoning inspections coming. If this isn't resolved by Friday, I'll press charges." He left pale and silent. That night, I installed motion sensor lights along my fence and added a large laminated sign, "Private land. Trespassing will be documented and prosecuted." A QR code linked to the county deed records. Clarissa didn't appear for 2 days, but the whispers started. "I support you. She's gone too far." Someone left a pie with a note, a peace offering from the sane half of the community. Thursday, I visited the county office. I handed over my evidence to a clerk named Joyce. She flipped through it, eyes widening. "They threw a party with lights and sound. On your land?" I nodded. "Used a non-licensed contractor. Damaged property. Violated code." She snapped the binder shut. "We'll escalate." I handed her one last photo of the utility junction. "They tapped into that." Joyce stared. "You planned this." I protected what's mine. Friday afternoon, a white SUV rolled up. Out stepped Lisa from zoning enforcement. Aviators, khakis, and a face that said she didn't have time for suburban nonsense. She measured, documented, frowned. I handed her my binder. "This is thorough," she said. "They haven't offered repairs," I added. She called out the violations publicly. The HOA members stood silent. Then, as if summoned by karma, Clarissa arrived. Hat, clipboard, swagger. "I demand to speak with your supervisor," she snapped. Lisa didn't blink. "You're not in a position to demand anything." Clarissa turned to the crowd. "He cut our power." "No," I said calmly. "I disconnected my own line. If your illegal wiring relied on it, that's on you." Silence. Lisa wrapped up. "You'll receive formal citations. I recommend legal counsel." The next morning, HOA members received the summary report. Someone filmed Clarissa's meltdown. Screenshots flooded the neighborhood chat. A petition formed. By Saturday, a flyer appeared on Clarissa's door *** special board vote. Saturday, noon. ***, and noon came. The community gathered, not for punch or prizes, but justice. The clubhouse lot filled. Clarissa sat at the center table, wearing a sunflower hat and brittle smile. "I understand there's been confusion," she began. "We're here to vote." Stuart interrupted. Melanie stood beside him. "A motion has been introduced to remove Clarissa Hayes as president of the HOA." Clarissa's jaw fell. The crowd stared back. No applause, no support. Just silence. "All in favor?" Stuart asked. Dozens of hands shot up. Even her allies caved. Clarissa stood, reached for her clipboard. then dropped it. The papers fluttered like feathers. "You'll regret this," she yelled that I stepped forward, stopping just outside the circle. "Don't paint on property," I said. She turned and fled. The board restructured. Stuart took over. Melanie confessed everything. Clarissa vanished from neighborhood politics, and my field, restored, reseeded, respected. Weeks later, a new neighbor passed by. "You're the guy who flipped the power, right?" I smiled. "That's me. You're a legend." "Not a legend. Just someone who had enough." Because sometimes the only way to redraw boundaries is when someone else crosses the line first.